Those who were ready got into the wedding feast. Today, this is a story about being ready. We might zoom in a little too closely on Jesus' example and think, is he really telling us to be mean to other people and not share? No, because principally the story is not about their sharing, it's about our readiness. Jesus, in many other places throughout the Gospels, reminds us to give to one another. He tells stories about taking off your cloak, giving it to somebody else, reaching into your pocket and caring for another. So we don't think that this is upending what Jesus believes about us. So let's not get too derailed by that. But it's about being ready. This is the 32nd Sunday in Ordinary Time. Those of you who've been around church for a while, whether online or here in church, know that the end is coming soon. There are 34 Sundays in Ordinary Time, and then we kind of begin anew with Advent. It's a new church year for us. So the way they've selected the prayers and the readings as we go about our church year is kind of the arc of a story. And we're getting to the end of the story. And Jesus did the same thing in his life and ministry. He started out by saying, hey, be nice to one another, care for people. And then towards the end, he's like, now guys, all right, I got the news for you. There's going to be a judgment at the end, and I'm going to go away and come back. And they're like, wait a minute, what happened to the love one another bit? He's like, well, okay, it's all part of the story. But he waited, until people had the foundation first of his mandate to love one another. But then he did say, there's more to come. There will actually be a last judgment. That's what this story is about. Now we might think, well, hey, you can't blame the 5 virgins who didn't have enough oil. Said he was delayed. Well, in fact, our scholars know that this was a very common practice in the time of Jesus. And even in Palestine, they still use some of these rituals today with the lamps greeting the bridegroom and all that. Now, to our modern ears, this would sound distasteful, but the reason why the bridegroom was delayed is because he was bartering, negotiating with the family for the bride. And in fact, what they tell us is it was a compliment to the bride to take longer to do it, like she was that important, that both sides had some investment in this. And so therefore, the 5 that didn't have enough oil actually really should have expected that it would take long if they liked their friend, the bride, right? So it's about being ready. It seems to me we live in a time that is so about the immediate moment. How many of us, let's admit it, how many of us were so frustrated that counting votes took longer than a couple of hours? I mean, I'll have to, self-accuse and say, once we got to like Thursday or Friday, I'm like, couldn't we hire a couple more people there in some of those states to count the ballots? We get impatient. But largely because we expect instant results, but also largely are so focused on the present that it is hard for us to see the future. In fact, studies show that as generations go by, people prepare less and less financially for the end of their lives. This generation now that is young adults will likely not consider saving money at all. We're very focused on the now. And that is what this story is meant to kind of jar us out of. That, yeah, now is important. But now, right now, here in church, is ultimately preparing for something to come. Jesus returning, Jesus judging us and welcoming us into the kingdom, to that big festive party, or pretty harsh words, locking the door and saying, I don't know who you are. So after a couple of years of ministry, when he's given them the basics, then he also has to give them the truth, the hard truth. It was championship-winning college football coach Bear Bryant who once said, the will to win is not what matters. Everybody has that. The will to prepare is what matters. Do you and I have the will to prepare? I have to tell you that over the last 7 or 8 months, my will to do pretty much of anything has significantly decreased. Motivation is at a low with all this going on. And that's a danger. Jesus is kind of warning us of a danger today. It's like great to be in the present moment, but this life is a journey with an end in mind. It's not just a wandering. It's not just, hey, let's see whatever comes. There is a point on the map that we're all moving towards. And how we prepare today sounds like it's important to Jesus. Because in the letter that we heard from St. Paul, he's talking about us being reunited with our loved ones. All those folks that we know who have lost friends or family members during this pandemic and haven't been able to be together, haven't had a proper goodbye. At least that glimmer of hope is we will be, as St. Paul says, we'll be reunited with our loved ones. Sorry that I got to tack this on from Jesus. If we prepare, if we are ready. So for us, it's not going to the store and buying some extra oil. For us, it is making sure that if he were to come today, if he were to surprise knock on the door and say, it's time, that our souls, our hearts, our actions would be ready. That we've been living, trying to live our best the way he asked us to live. So that we are ready when he opens that door. And to us, he says, come on in and enjoy the party. You and I can prepare by being a little forward focused. What can I do today? What is my will to prepare today for that time with God and Jesus that will be eternal? Well, Jesus gives us, throughout the Gospels, a lot of hints as to how to do that. Maybe this week we can pick one or two, whether it is being patient about things that we're impatient about, whether it is being kind to those who are very likely, there's a lot of people in our country and in our lives and in our families who are having a tough day today and will have a tough week and are not happy with the outcome of the election. How we are kind to them, how we are kind to ourselves, if that's you and I, that's us preparing for our ultimate end. How we live today is preparation. How we enact the commands of Jesus to love and to forgive and to be merciful and to help in our world people see those most in need. Perhaps we can now turn a corner of greater unity in our country. Maybe there's likely to be a lot of disunity, first at least. How we are gentle and kind with one another. How we are forgiving of people that are different from us. That's us preparing and getting our oil ready to trim our lamps for the big party that is to come. But preparing today makes the difference. Do you and I have the will to prepare to win, not just the desire to get there, but the will to prepare this week?